Captain Thad Blackwood's diplomatic ship sliced through Ara's atmosphere, the planet's twin suns casting colorful reflections across his viewport. The shimmering spires of the capital city rose through verdant clouds like nature's own crown jewels, their clear surfaces bending sunlight into rainbow streams. Quite the light display they have, Thad muttered, adjusting his formal Earth uniform's collar. The rigid fabric rubbed against his neck, a constant reminder of the significance of his mission. Earth needed this alliance more than ever. His pilot, Lieutenant Kayla Rodriguez, maneuvered their vessel between floating gardens that defied gravity, their exotic blooms swaying in artificial breezes. "Sir, receiving landing coordinates from the Royal Palace. Let's hope they're more hospitable than their last message implied." Thad opened the communication on his datapad, grimacing at the thinly veiled condescension in every line. The Araran royal house had made their view of humans clear, primitive, hardly worth their attention. The ship gently landed on a crystal platform that hummed with energy. A delegation awaited them, led by three figures whose beauty was rivaled only by their evident disdain. The notorious princesses of Era. Thad straightened his posture and activated the ship's ramp. Time to win over the unwelcoming. Princess Elena, the eldest, stepped forward first. Her silver hair flowed down her back in intricate braids, each strand appearing to capture and amplify the light. Her eyes, golden like molten sunlight, evaluated Thad with clinical precision. "Captain Blackwood," she pronounced his name as if it were beneath her station. "Welcome to Era. I trust your primitive navigation systems managed to follow our beacon without too much trouble." Thad bowed with a deliberate flourish. "They did indeed, Your Highness, though I must confess your planet's beauty nearly distracted us into several wrong turns. It's not every day we encounter architecture that makes Earth's greatest achievements look like child's play." Naira, the warrior princess, snorted. Her ceremonial armor glimmered with an iridescent shine, and an energy blade rested at her side. "At least you recognize your limitations. Perhaps there's hope for your species yet." Quote, "Oh, there's always hope," Thad replied cheerfully. "It's one of our many primitive traits, stubborn optimism in the face of superior beings." The youngest sister, Lexa, covered her mouth, but not before a small laugh escaped when her sister shot her a sharp look. She quickly composed herself. "We should proceed to the welcome ceremony unless the captain needs time to adjust to our atmosphere." "I'm quite comfortable, Princess Lexa, though I appreciate your concern for my delicate human constitution." As they walked through corridors of living crystal, Thad observed how other courtiers scattered at the princess's approach. Interesting, he thought. Fear or respect? Perhaps a mix of both. Elena fell into step beside him, her movements as precise as a quantum calculation. "I've reviewed Earth's technological proposals. Your solutions to quantum entanglement are?" She paused for effect, charming. "We do our best with limited resources, Your Highness, though I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts on our recent advancements in neural interface technology." Something flickered in her eyes, interest quickly masked by feigned boredom. "Perhaps if I find myself with nothing better to do, which seems unlikely." They entered a grand chamber where anti-gravity platforms held hundreds of Orion nobles floating at varying heights, creating a three-dimensional court. Thad noted how the positions seemed to indicate social status. The higher the platform, the more important the noble. His own platform, he couldn't help but notice, hovered barely above floor level. The welcome ceremony proceeded with all the warmth of a neutron star. Noble after noble approached their elevated platforms to introduce themselves, each managing to slip subtle insults about Earth into their greetings. Thad maintained his easy smile, mentally cataloging every slight and every reaction. "Tell us, Captain Blackwood," Naira called out from her high platform, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Is it true that humans still rely on physical combat training? How charmingly archaic. We find it keeps us humble, Your Highness," Thad replied, spreading his hands, "though I'm sure our hand-to-hand techniques would seem like child's play compared to your advanced combat systems. Perhaps a demonstration?" Naira's smile turned predatory. "I would be honored to show you how we train our warriors." Several nobles tittered, clearly anticipating entertainment at the human's expense. But Thad sensed something else, a tension in the room, a current of unease beneath the mockery. "I would be deeply honored, Princess Naira, though I should warn you." He paused for effect. "I'm a terrible dancer. Your toes might be at risk." Unexpected laughter rippled through the chamber. Even Lexa giggled openly this time, earning another sharp look from her sisters. "You mistake this for a game?" Captain Elena interjected, her golden eyes narrowing. "Our time is valuable. If Earth truly seeks an alliance, perhaps you should focus on convincing us of your worth rather than attempting to charm us with your peculiar humor." Thad activated his datapad, projecting a holographic display of Earth's latest technological advancements. "You're absolutely right, Your Highness. Shall we discuss how our primitive quantum communications network achieved faster-than-light transmission last month? Or would you prefer to start with our breakthroughs in bion neural interfacing?" The projection caught Elena's attention. Despite herself, her eyes widened fractionally at the scrolling data, though she quickly masked her interest. "Impossible," she declared. "Your civilization hasn't even mastered basic gravity manipulation. You expect us to believe that we might excel in areas you haven't considered?" Thad interrupted gently. "Sometimes the most primitive paths lead to unexpected destinations." The chamber fell silent. No one interrupted the eldest princess. Elena's platform glided closer to his, descending until they were nearly at eye level. "You're either very brave or very foolish, Captain. Why choose? I find life more interesting when embracing both qualities." A subtle shift rippled through the court. Nobles exchanged glances, adjusted their positions. Thad had challenged the expected power dynamic, and now they waited to see how the princesses would respond. Mayara's platform descended sharply. "Tomorrow morning, Captain, the training arena. We'll see how well your primitive paths serve you there. I look forward to it, Your Highness, though I hope you'll forgive me if I don't manage any fancy anti-gravity flips." As the ceremony concluded, Thad noticed Lexa studying him with genuine curiosity. When their eyes met, she didn't immediately look away like the others. Lieutenant Rodriguez was waiting outside the chamber. "Sir, that was intriguing," Thad grinned. "Nothing like a little diplomatic tension to get the blood flowing." "I was going to say reckless," she said. "Did you see their weapon systems? The princess could vaporize you tomorrow without breaking a sweat." "Probably," Thad agreed cheerfully. "But did you notice how the court reacted when I challenged Elena? There's dissent here, hidden beneath all that crystal and sophistication. And getting yourself killed helps Earth how exactly? They're not going to kill me." Thad pulled up his datapad, reviewing the scans he'd been quietly running throughout the ceremony. "They're too intrigued. Besides, I spotted at least 3 structural weaknesses in their defense grid while we were flying in. If they were really as superior as they claim," Rodriguez shook her head, "just try not to start an interplanetary incident before dinner." "No promises, but speaking of dinner," Thad checked his schedule. "Looks like I'm dining with the royal family tonight. Want to bet on how many ways they'll find to call me primitive between courses? Sir, with all due respect, be careful. These people, they're not just playing political games. The way those nobles looked at the princesses, there's fear there." Thad's expression sobered. "I know, and fear like that usually means trouble's brewing. Keep monitoring the local communications channels. I want to know what's really happening on this shining crystal world." Later, as Thad prepared for dinner, he reviewed his initial observations. The princess's mockery felt rehearsed, almost performative. Elena's quick interest in Earth's technology, Mayara's eagerness to test him personally, Lex's poorly hidden amusement, all suggested complexity beneath their unified front of disdain. The royal dining hall proved to be another exercise in architectural grandeur. The entire room seeming to float in midair, its crystal walls transparent enough to show the glittering cityscape below. The table itself was a masterpiece of controlled gravity, with dishes and drinks hovering at perfect serving height. "Impressed?" Captain Elena asked as he took his seat. "Or is floating furniture another of Earth's quaint achievements?" "Actually, we still prefer our tables firmly planted on the ground," Thad replied, carefully managing his wine glass. "Less chance of wearing your dinner when the gravity fails." "Our systems don't fail," Mayara stated flatly. "Everything fails eventually, Your Highness. The trick is learning to adapt when it does. Is that Earth's grand philosophy?" Elena raised an elegant eyebrow. "Prepare for failure, more like expect the unexpected." Thad sampled what appeared to be some kind of luminescent seafood. "Though I must say your unexpected is considerably more elegant than ours." "You speak in riddles, Captain Blackwood," Lexa observed, speaking directly to him for the first time. "Yet I sense purpose behind your words." "Sometimes a riddle is just a riddle, Princess," Thad said, and sometimes he let the sentence hang as one of the floating dishes wobbled slightly, a tiny imperfection in the gravity field that only he seemed to notice. The king, silent until now, leaned forward. Tell me, Captain, what does Earth truly seek from this alliance besides our obviously superior technology? Honestly, understanding. Thad met the king's gaze steadily. The galaxy's a vast place, filled with expected challenges ahead. Earth believes we're stronger facing them together, even if some of us are more primitive than others. How diplomatic of you, Elena said dryly. Though I suppose diplomacy is one of the few areas where primitive species can excel. You'd be surprised what primitive species can achieve, Your Highness. History has a way of favoring the adaptable over the advanced. The dinner continued in this vein, a delicate dance of barbed compliments and veiled observations, but throughout it all, Thad noticed things. The way the king watched his daughter's interactions, the subtle tensions between the sisters themselves, the careful distance maintained by the servants. This wasn't just a proud civilization looking down on Earth. This was a society under strain, using its superiority as a shield against change. Tomorrow's training session with Naira would be intriguing indeed. After dinner, Thad found himself in one of the palace's crystalline gardens, supposedly to acclimate to the evening atmosphere. In reality, he suspected the princesses wanted to observe his reaction to their world's wonders. He didn't disappoint them, letting out a low whistle as floating orbs of light danced between exotic flowers that changed color with each breeze. Impressed by simple bioluminescence, Captain, Elena's voice carried from behind him. She emerged from behind a crystalline tree, its branches chiming softly as she passed. Impressed by everything, Your Highness, Thad turned, offering his most disarming smile. Though at the moment bioluminescence is running a distant second. Her golden eyes narrowed, but he caught the slight uplift at the corner of her mouth. Your attempts at charm are as transparent as our architecture. Transparent but potentially load-bearing, he gestured to the crystal structures around them. Sometimes the clearest things have hidden strength. And sometimes, Naira's voice cut in as she appeared from another path, clarity reveals weakness. She was still in her ceremonial armor, though she'd removed the more ornate pieces. The sleeker form highlighted her warrior's physique. Speaking of weakness, Thad said, I don't suppose either of you would care to give me tips about tomorrow's training session in the interest of not making humans look completely incompetent. Naira's laugh was sharp but not entirely unkind. Where would be the fun in that, Captain? I'm looking forward to demonstrating the difference between real combat training and your, what did you call them, children's games? Oh, I wouldn't worry too much about me. Thad stretched casually, noting how both sisters tracked his movement. I'm surprisingly agile for a primitive being. Is everything a joke to you? Elena asked, but there was genuine curiosity beneath the disdain. Not everything. Thad's voice turned serious. Earth's desire for this alliance, for instance. That's very real. And what would you give for this alliance, Captain? Lex's quiet voice joined them as she stepped out from behind a floating flower display in the garden's shifting light. She looked younger, more vulnerable than during the formal functions. That depends. Thad met each sister's gaze in turn, letting his usual humor fade. On whether what we're offering is what Era truly needs. The sisters exchanged glances, something unspoken passing between them. And what do you think we need, primitive one? Naira challenged, stepping closer. Besides better nicknames for your diplomatic guests? Thad grinned, breaking the tension. I'll tell you what. If I survive tomorrow's training session with all my limbs intact, maybe we can discuss it over dinner, just the four of us. Bold of you to assume you'll be conscious for dinner, Naira smirked. Bold is my middle name. Actually, it's Theodore, Thad replied. But I prefer bold. Lexa giggled, then quickly composed herself when Elena shot her a look. But Thad noticed Elena's own expression had softened slightly. Your confidence is either admirable or delusional, she said, moving to examine a nearby flower, though I suppose we'll find out which tomorrow. Care to place a wager on the outcome? Thad suggested, following her to the flower. If I manage to impress Naira during training, you have to let me show you some of Earth's primitive technology in detail. Elena turned, finding him closer than she'd expected. And if you fail to impress, then I'll admit publicly that humans are hopelessly primitive and should stick to finger painting and hitting rocks together. You'd humiliate yourself and your planet for a bet? Naira asked incredulously. For a chance to show Princess Elena something that might genuinely surprise her. Thad smiled at the eldest sister. Worth the risk? The garden's light shifted, casting rainbow patterns across their faces. For a moment no one spoke. I accept your wager, Elena finally said, though I wonder if Earth knows their diplomat is so cavalier with their reputation. Oh, they knew exactly what they were getting when they sent me, Thad winked. That's why they made sure my middle name wasn't actually Careful. Later that night, in his assigned quarters, Thad reviewed the palace's security feeds he'd managed to access. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through his communicator. Sir, are you sure about this? I've analyzed Princess Naira's combat records. She's, well, let's just say formidable is an understatement. Noted and appreciated. Thad studied a particular sequence of movements. But did you notice how she favors her left side? Almost like she's compensating for something. For being able to move faster than human reflexes can track. Nobody's perfect, Lieutenant. Not even stunning alien princesses who can probably defeat me with their pinky fingers. Speaking of the princesses, Rodriguez's tone turned knowing. The bet with Princess Elena, really. Sometimes the best diplomatic strategies aren't found in any manual. And sometimes diplomats get themselves spaced for being too clever. Thad laughed. Have a little faith, Lieutenant. Besides, did you see how interested she was in the neural interface specs? There's a genuine scientist under all that royal disdain. Just be careful. Tomorrow all three of them were watching you very closely in that garden. I noticed. Thad's smile turned thoughtful. Interesting, isn't it, how they keep testing me but not quite the way you'd expect from people who truly believe we're primitive? Maybe they're just thorough in their disdain? Or maybe, Thad mused, they're looking for something specific, something they're not finding in their own society. He spent another hour studying combat footage before finally retiring. As he drifted off to sleep, he found himself remembering the way Elena's eyes had lit up at the mention of Earth's technology, how Naira's challenges carried an undercurrent of hope rather than pure mockery, and how Lexa seemed to be searching for permission to show her true reactions. Tomorrow would be intriguing indeed, and if he played his cards right, it might be the first step towards something far more significant than just an alliance between worlds. The next morning arrived with Ara's twin sons painting the Crystal City in sheets of gold and amber. Thad arrived at the training arena early, finding it empty save for a few anti-gravity training drones hovering at various heights warming up. Captain, Lexa's voice startled him. She'd entered silently, wearing a simpler version of her usual royal attire. More like saying my prayers, he replied cheerfully. Any last-minute advice for surviving your sister? Lexa moved closer, her expression serious. Why do you do this? Turn everything into a joke even when facing real danger. Would you prefer I tremble in fear of your superior abilities? I would prefer to understand you. Her honesty caught him off guard. You're not what we expected. I get that a lot, Thad said softly, though usually people sound less intrigued when they say it. Quote, before Lexa could respond, the arena's main door swept open. Naira strode in her combat suit, gleaming with integrated tech. Behind her, Elena entered more sedately, taking a position in the elevated observation area. Ready to demonstrate your primitive prowess, Captain? Naira's grin was all predator. Always ready to make a fool of myself for a beautiful woman, Thad replied, stretching his shoulders, though usually it involves dancing rather than combat. This is not a game, Naira warned, though her eyes sparkled with amusement. Life's more fun when everything's a game. Thad moved to the center of the arena. Shall we dance, Your Highness? Naira launched forward with startling speed, her first strike aimed at his head. Thad dropped and rolled, coming up with a flourish that made it look more like a dance move than a defensive maneuver. Points for style, he asked hopefully. Points for surviving the first 5 seconds, Elena called from above, though I wouldn't get too confident. Naira pressed her attack, her movements a blur of practiced lethal grace, but Thad kept moving, never quite where her strikes landed, his own movement unpredictable and oddly rhythmic. You're not fighting back, Naira observed, pausing momentarily. I'm admiring your technique, Thad replied, slightly breathless but still grinning. Besides, I thought this was a demonstration, not a real fight. Everything's real here, Captain. Naira's next sequence of attacks drove him toward the arena wall. No more games. But games are what humans do best, Thad said, then did something completely unexpected. He started humming an earth waltz and moving in time to it. Naira's rhythm faltered slightly. What are you doing? Introducing a little chaos into the system. His movement shifted to match the waltz timing. Care to join me? This is combat training, not a dance hall. Why not both? Thad spun away from a particularly vicious strike, turning it into a graceful twirl. Your combat style is already like a dance. Precise, lethal, but maybe too precise. Something shifted in Naira's eyes. Her next attack followed the rhythm he'd established, testing his theory. Thad responded in kind, and suddenly they were moving together in a deadly choreography. From above, Elena leaned forward, her golden eyes narrow with concentration. "He's turning her own training against her," she murmured, "making her adapt to his rhythm instead of imposing hers." "It's clever," Lexa admitted, "and oddly beautiful." In the arena, Thad and Naira's dance had evolved. She was still clearly superior in skill and speed, but his unpredictability kept her off balance just enough to make it interesting. "You're holding back," he said during a particularly close exchange. "So are you," Naira countered, surprise evident in her voice. "Maybe we both have something to prove." Thad spun inside her guard, closer than anyone had likely dared get, and maybe it's not what everyone thinks. Their faces were inches apart for a moment before Naira executed a perfect throw that sent him flying. Thad turned it into a controlled roll, coming up with his hands raised in surrender. "I yield to superior skill and superior beauty," he declared dramatically. Naira stood frozen for a moment, then let out a laugh that seemed to surprise even her. "You are either the most foolish or the most brilliant diplomat I've ever encountered." "Why choose?" Thad brushed himself off. "Though I hope this means I've earned that private dinner discussion." "You survived," Elena acknowledged, descending to the arena floor, "though I'm not sure that qualifies as impressive." "No?" Thad raised an eyebrow. "Then why did you record the entire session on your personal device?" Elena's hand moved reflexively to her datapad. "For analysis of human weaknesses, obviously." "Obviously." Thad's smile was knowing. "Just as I was obviously only dancing to avoid getting hit and not to demonstrate how traditional combat patterns can be disrupted by unexpected variables." All three sisters stared at him with new consideration. "You planned this," Naira realized. "The jokes, the flirting, the dancing, it was all to show us that sometimes the most primitive approach can reveal sophisticated truths. Or maybe I just really wanted that dinner date." "It wasn't a date," Elena said quickly. "My mistake," Thad shrugged. "Though since I won our bet, I believe you owe me a technology demonstration." He pulled out his own datapad. "Unless you're not interested in how Earth's primitive neural interfaces achieve quantum coherence." Elena's professional mask cracked slightly. "That's impossible without thinking outside traditional patterns," Thad finished. "Amazing what you can achieve when you're too primitive to know what's impossible." Lexa stepped forward. "I wish to attend this demonstration as well." "The more the merrier," Thad said cheerfully, "though I should warn you my technical explanations tend to include terrible science puns." "We will endure somehow," Naira said dryly, but her eyes were bright with interest. As they left the arena, Thad caught Lieutenant Rodriguez's eye from where she'd been observing. She gave him a subtle nod. All the security scans they'd been running during the demonstration had completed successfully. This had never been just about proving himself in combat. Every movement, every joke, every flirtation had served multiple purposes. He learned more about the sisters' personalities, confirmed suspicions about their security systems, and most importantly, cracked the perfect facades they presented to the world. Now came the real challenge, turning that crack into a bridge between worlds. But first he had a dinner date that wasn't actually a date to prepare for. "Captain," Elena called as he turned to leave. "Your combat style was unconventional." "Thank you, Your Highness. Your sister is an amazing partner." "That's not what She paused, composing herself. "The demonstration will be in my private laboratory." "Don't be late." "I wouldn't dream of it." Thad bowed slightly, "though I might suggest we all wear something less formal. Technical discussions can get quite animated." The look all three sisters gave him suggested he was either very brave or very foolish, but then again, that seemed to be becoming his signature diplomatic style. Later that evening, after the technology demonstration, which involved far more terrible science puns than anyone was prepared for, Thad found himself preparing for the most crucial phase of his plan. The public debate with Naira about Aura's defense systems. It would either cement Earth's position as a valuable ally or confirm their status as primitive outsiders. The Great Hall was packed with nobility, their floating platforms arranged in concentric circles around the central debate area. King Zerth sat at the highest point, his crystalline throne catching the light of the setting suns. "Nervous?" Naira asked, adjusting Thad's formal uniform collar. "Terrified," he admitted cheerfully, "but in a good way. Like that time you almost decapitated me in training." That was yesterday, she deadpanned. Exactly, and look how well that turned out. Quote, Lexa hurried over, her ceremonial robes flowing. Elena's ready, and she looks... She paused, searching for words. Perfect, Thad suggested. Actually, Lexa smiled. Perfectly imperfect, she added. Some Earth traditions to her dress that would scandalize half the court. That's my girl, he grinned. The ceremony itself was a beautiful chaos. Elena appeared in a dress that somehow incorporated quantum crystals into Earth silk, with a very non-traditional Earth leather jacket over it all. The traditional Orion vows were punctuated by Earth jokes that made the stuffy nobles gasp and the common citizens cheer. I promise, Thad said during his vows, to love you in all your perfect imperfection, to dance with you through quantum fields and common streets, and to always make you laugh at the worst possible moments. And I promise, Elena replied, her golden eyes shining, to love you in all your primitive glory, to adapt with you through every challenge, and to pretend I don't find your terrible jokes charming. After the celebration, as guests danced and drank crystalline wine, Thad pulled his new wife aside onto a private balcony. So, he said, wrapping his arms around her, I have a proposition for you. Another one, she raised an eyebrow. The last one ended in marriage. Even better, his eyes twinkled. How would you like to visit Earth, now, in the middle of our political transition? Why not? Your sisters have things well in hand here. Naira's combat school is thriving. Lexa's reforms are making real change, he grinned wickedly. I want to introduce you to something called a cheeseburger. A what? Trust me, it's the pinnacle of primitive cuisine, completely illogical, absolutely unhealthy, and utterly perfect. Elena studied his face, then laughed. You're serious? You want to take me to Earth to eat processed food? Among other things, he pulled her closer. I want to show you my world the way you've shown me yours. All its beautiful imperfections, its chaos, its joy. He kissed her softly. Plus, I really want to see your face when you try a milkshake. A shake of milk? She looked horrified and intrigued. See, already working. He spun her playfully. Come on, my perfectly imperfect princess. Let me show you how the primitives live. Well, she pretended to consider it. I suppose it is my diplomatic duty to understand Earth culture better. Absolutely, very serious diplomatic mission. Nothing at all to do with me wanting to show off my brilliant, beautiful alien wife to everyone I know. And nothing to do with you missing what you called real coffee. That too. He kissed her again. So what do you say? Ready for another adventure? Elena's answer was to pull him down for a deeper kiss, one that made passing servants blush and Naira shout, "Get a room," from somewhere inside. I'll take that as a yes, Thad murmured against her lips. Yes, she laughed. But if these burgers of cheese make me sick, I'm declaring war on Earth. Fair enough. He twirled her back toward the celebration. Though something tells me you're going to love them almost as much as you love me. Primitive optimism always, he grinned. It's one of my most charming qualities. And as they rejoined their guests, both knew that this was just the beginning of their adventures together. After all, the galaxy was full of wonders to explore, traditions to blend, and perfectly imperfect moments to create. Plus, Thad really couldn't wait to see Elena's face when she discovered hot sauce. The farewell gathering in the palace's landing bay was filled with both tears and laughter. Naira tried to maintain her warrior's stoicism, but even she hugged Thad fiercely. Take care of my sister Primitive, she warned with a smile, and bring her back in one piece. No promises, he grinned. Earth's gravity might take some getting used to. Lexa stood with Lieutenant Kayla Rodriguez, their hands subtly intertwined. The youngest princess had found an unexpected connection with the Earth officer, their shared dedication to protecting others bridging the cultural divide. You'll stay, Thad asked quietly. Someone needs to maintain Earth's security presence here, Kayla replied with a genuine smile. Besides, she glanced at Lexa, I found my own reason to embrace Orion culture. The royal ship awaited them, its crystalline hull gleaming as Thad and Elena made their final goodbyes. Remember, the king said quietly, this journey is about more than just diplomacy. It's about building bridges between our worlds. And trying Earth cuisine, Thad added cheerfully. Very serious diplomatic matter. Once aboard, as the ship broke atmosphere, Thad led Elena to the observation deck, the twin suns painted Era in farewell colors below them. Having second thoughts? He asked softly. About leaving, she turned to him, golden eyes bright. About spending uninterrupted time with my impossible human husband, perhaps impossible in a good way. Her answer was to pull him close for a kiss, their first truly private moment since becoming husband and wife. The journey to Earth would take several days, plenty of time for them to begin their new life together, sharing both tender moments and playful banter about primitive and perfect ways of showing affection. Back on Naira, Kayla watched the ship disappear into the stars. Lexa's hand warmed hers. "They'll be fine," Lexa assured her. "After all, they have something we're all still learning about." What's that? The perfect balance between order and chaos. The ship's private quarters were a blend of Orion luxury and Earth practicality, much like their relationship. Crystal lights dimmed to a soft glow as Thad and Elena stood somewhat awkwardly, both suddenly shy despite their usual confidence. "So," Thad broke the silence, "is this when you tell me about secret Orion marriage customs I should know about?" Elena's laugh broke the tension. "Worried about some mysterious royal protocol? Always." He stepped closer, tucking a strand of her silver hair behind her ear. "Though I'm more worried about disappointing my perfect wife." "I thought we agreed," she murmured, leaning into his touch, "that perfect is overrated." "In that case," he pulled her closer, his voice softening, "may I kiss my beautifully imperfect wife?" Their kiss was different from their previous ones. Unhurried, exploring, full of promise, the quantum crystals in Elena's dress hummed softly in response to her heightened emotions. "Your heart's racing," she whispered against his lips. "I can feel the quantum resonance." "That's not quantum science," he smiled. "That's just what you do to me." She traced his face with gentle fingers. "Show me," she said softly, "how primitives express love." "With pleasure," he replied, drawing her into another kiss. "Though I should warn you, Earth customs can be quite passionate. Good thing I've developed a taste for primitive things." The crystal lights dimmed further, casting the room in starlight as they discovered each new way they fit together perfectly in their imperfection. Later, wrapped in quantum silk sheets, Elena traced patterns on his chest. "I think," she said thoughtfully, "I understand now why Earth poetry often mentions stars." "Oh," Thad pulled her closer, dropping a kiss on her silver hair, "everything feels infinite, like floating in space but anchored by something stronger than gravity." "That," he chuckled, "was surprisingly poetic for a quantum scientist. Must be your primitive influence rubbing off on me." They lay in comfortable silence, watching the stars streak past their viewport, 2 worlds apart but somehow fitting together just right. "I love you," Thad said simply, "in every possible version of reality. Even the primitive ones," she teased, "especially those." He kissed her again, soft and sweet. "Though I have to warn you, Earth gravity is going to feel very strange after this." Her laugh echoed through their quarters, a sound of pure joy that made the quantum crystals sing in harmony. "Worth it," she decided, curling closer. "Everything about you is worth it." Quote, and as they drifted to sleep in each other's arms, the ship carried them toward Earth and all the adventures awaiting them there. Perfect and primitive, bound together by something stronger than any force in the galaxy. Love in all its beautifully chaotic forms. Dear fellow adventurers, through this tale of love, diplomacy, and quantum mechanics, you've journeyed with Thad Blackwood through his remarkable adventure on Naira, watching him navigate not just interstellar politics, but the hearts of 3 extraordinary princesses. Each sister brought something unique to the story. Elena, the brilliant quantum scientist with golden eyes and a sharp wit, who learned that perfection isn't always found in precision. Naira, the fierce warrior princess whose combat skills were matched only by her strategic mind, discovering that true strength lies in adaptation. And Lexa, the compassionate youngest sister, who saw beyond royal facades and helped bridge worlds through understanding. So now I'm curious. If you found yourself in Thad's position, which princess would capture your heart? Would you be drawn to Elena's brilliant mind and hidden warmth? Perhaps Naira's strength and passion would win your affection, or would Lexa's genuine heart and quiet wisdom be your perfect match? Or maybe, just maybe, you think King Zerth had the right idea with his outrageous triple marriage proposal, though we all know how that turned out. Share your thoughts. After all, love stories are always better when shared, whether they're set among crystal spires or primitive earth burger joints. Remember, in matters of the heart, sometimes the most perfect choice is the one that seems perfectly impossible at first. So who would you choose? And more importantly, what kind of cheeseburger would you introduce them to first? Looking forward to your answers.